Hey everybody, this is your Digital Super Saiyan 3 back here with another video, and welcome to the month of June. That's right, we're finally in the month of June, and today marks the 18-year anniversary of this show, and this took place on June 1st, 2008, and that, for my retro pay-per-view review, is WWE's One Night Stand 2008. So, yeah, this was a damn good pay-per-view for 2008. 2008 had some really solid shows. I gotta give 2008 credit where credit is due. I definitely think it definitely had some really good stuff in it. But that's saying something. So, let's get on to talking about this. Oh, and yes, I am wearing my Edge shirt that I got at WrestleMania 37 Night 2. Yes, I got this at WrestleMania 37 Night 2 from the vendor, along with a pair of AJ Styles gloves. So, yeah, there's that. Alright, on to the video. So, yes, this took place on June 1st, 2008 at the San Diego Sports Arena in San Diego, California. So yes, this was back in 08, back when the back when the LA Chargers were the San Diego Chargers. Yes, this was before the Chargers went to LA. And yeah, in attendance is Shawn Merriman of the San Diego Chargers was in attendance for the show. Yes, Shawn Merriman, who was the former linebacker of the San Diego Chargers. Opening contest is a Falls Count Anywhere, and this is called by Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler of Raw. So yes, you had three commentary teams, Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler for Raw. SmackDown had Michael Cole and Mick Foley, and ECW had Mike Adamle and Taz. So, opening contest is a Falls Count Anywhere match as Jeff Hardy defeats Umaga in a really good opening match. This was a really good match. Who better to open a show called Extreme Rules than the Extreme Enigma himself, Jeff Hardy? And he's taking on Umaga in a Falls Count Anywhere match. They were brawling in the arena. They were brawling backstage. You know, we saw the uses of carrying cases. You know, we saw a lot going on to this. They brawled out into the parking lot. Jeff Hardy knocked Umaga off the top of a ladder from the top of a semi. And then Jeff Hardy dived onto Umaga with the Swanton Bomb. 1, 2, 3. Jeff Hardy is your victor. A really good opener, like just seeing Jeff Hardy just jump off of a semi. Like, I know Jeff Hardy's jumped off of plenty of things, but seeing him do it off the top of a semi is just, chef's kiss. This was really good. So good. Now we are cut to backstage, and you have Mr. McMahon, or Vince McMahon, being interviewed about $1 Million Mania, as Todd Grisham is just interviewing Mr. McMahon about the quote-unquote $1 Million Mania. And, you know, he's gonna say, yeah, you'll find out more about it tomorrow night on Raw. As well as the fact that this was before the draft, mind you. Next match, we get a Fatal 5-Way #1 Contenders match, as it was a Singapore Kane Fatal 5-Way match to determine the #1 contender who will face Kane at One Night Stand for the ECW Championship. So you have the participants. You have Chavo Guerrero with Bam Neely, his bodyguard. You had CM Punk, Mr. Money in the Bank, Mr. CM Punk. You had the likes of John Morrison, one half of the WWE Tag Team Champions. You had the hardcore ECW original, Tommy Dreamer. And then finally, you got the world's largest athlete, The Big Show. You had kendo sticks on poles and everything. You had 4 poles that make up the ring posts. Or 4 kendo sticks suspended from poles. This was actually not that bad of a match, to be honest. I mean, sure, pole matches aren't always the best thing, but I kind of enjoyed this one, especially just how, like, during the match, like, Chavo Guerrero tries to take a swing at CM Punk with a kendo stick, but he ends up hitting Shawn Merriman. Like, Shawn Merriman gets hit in the face with a kendo stick, then CM Punk gets the kendo stick from Chavo, and then Merriman said, give the kendo stick to me, and then Merriman gets his licks back on Chavo. He gets his get back on Chavo, and Chavo got nailed with a kendo stick. Like, you had Miz and Morris. You had Miz coming out to run interference for John Morrison. Like, Big Show tries to hit the Miz with the steel steps, and then Morrison hits the Big Show's knee with the kendo stick, and the Big Show just gets busted open. Like, you see the Big Show a bloody mess. And then he gets his second win, and man, Big Show, despite being busted open, he still manages to win the damn match, because obviously he would, because, I mean, would you really bet against a pissed off, angry giant who just got bloodied? Of course not, especially since the Big Show, you know, everyone was pretty much... This was a pro Big Show crowd, basically. The Big Show, everybody in San Diego, you know, they were behind Big Show all the way. And, you know, Big Show ends up winning with the chokeslam. You know, Tommy Dreamer is the one who gets pinned. 1, 2, 3. And the Big Show will be facing Kane at Night of Champions. Then we cut to backstage as Randy Orton and Batista are talking, as Randy Orton says, hey, listen, there's a draft coming up, and I'm going to need you on my side, you know. We don't know who will be on what show or not, but I would want you on my side. And not as Evolution, but something new. You know, just without Triple H and without Ric Flair. And I also came to wish you luck. You know, you have your hands full with Shawn Michaels in the stretcher match, and I have my hands full with Triple H in the Last Man Standing match. Next up, we're getting into our next match. It is a First Blood match. That's right, it's First Blood. This was like the last time WWE ever did a First Blood match, as John Cena defeats John Bradshaw Layfield. This was not as good as their Judgment Day 05 match, but I think probably this is like a close second or third. Probably definitely a third, but yeah, this was a really good match that these two had, as they're just beating the hell out of each other. You know, the referee has to make sure who's bleeding or not. You know, I kind of love the reactions of the referee every time he tries to check Cena for blood, and he's like, no blood! No blood! Come on, it made me chuckle so much that whenever the referee kept saying no blood, you know, every time he had to check both competitors. But in the end, JBL is the one who ends up bleeding from the mouth, and, you know, the match ends up being stopped, and John Cena is the winner. He is your victor, as JBL is the one bleeding from the mouth, as he suffers eternal bleeding, because both Cena and JBL suffer a lot of damage to each other, but JBL took it the worst, as he was bleeding from the mouth. Okay. Next up, we get a women's I Quit match. As Beth Phoenix defeats Melina in a women's I Quit match. This was also the only women's I Quit match that ever happened on WWE pay-per-views. Like, I think this was the only WWE women's I Quit match, and you know, there was some really good workmanship from both Melina and Beth Phoenix in this match. I'll give Beth Phoenix and Melina credit where credit is due. They definitely really worked well in this match, and you know, especially, you know, Melina especially had a good showing in this match, despite even though she lost and Beth ended up, I mean, look how much damage Melina suffered, like in that in that in that torturous submission hold that Beth Phoenix had her in. Melina ended up having to say I quit. I mean, she had to avoid further injury. And next up, we're getting into our next match, and this was built after what had happened back at Backlash, as Shawn Michaels would take on Batista in a stretcher match, and of course through AT&T for the number of votes. Guess how many people voted for Shawn Michaels? 57% for Shawn Michaels and 41% for Batista. Yeah, there were more votes for Shawn Michaels to win this match than Batista. Let that sink in for a second. And you have Shawn, who who said that he was someone who would do anything to win, as he had retired Ric Flair. And Batista, he is not happy about this. He is outraged at Shawn Michaels for not laying down for Ric Flair. That Shawn Michaels didn't lay down. And of course, Batista further questioned Shawn Michaels' integrity when Shawn Michaels feigned a knee injury during their match at Backlash, with Chris Jericho as the special guest referee. Shawn Michaels won their match at Backlash. And Batista said, the next time I see Shawn, he better not be injured. If he's not injured, then I will put the hurting on him. And so it was made. A stretcher match. Shawn Michaels and Batista. And before the show went on the air, or shall I say, before people filed into the arena, Mick Foley in the empty arena explained the rules and how to win a stretcher match. Basically, he was explaining the rules of a stretcher match, even though Foley is someone who knew what who has been in stretcher matches. Foley basically talks about the rules and how to win and how the stretcher can be used as a weapon. And now we get into the match itself, and man, Michaels and Batista, Batista pretty much puts the whooping on Shawn. He beats the shit out of Shawn here. Shawn, he does have a solid showing here, but Batista, man, he he goes right for Shawn's lower back. He's putting Shawn out. He puts the damage on Shawn here. Jericho kept running interference, trying to stop Batista from pushing Shawn up the ramp with Shawn on the stretcher, but it ends with Shawn eating a spine buster on the steel steps, and Batista said, "I'm not sorry, and I do not love you." Basically putting a spin on the words that Shawn had muttered back in March, back at WrestleMania when he retired Ric Flair. Batista puts Shawn on the stretcher, and he wheels Shawn across the finish line, and Batista is your victor. A really good match. Batista here looked great. He got his get back on Shawn here. Awesome match. Next up, and now we're getting into our next match, and it is for the WWE Championship. It is a last man standing match. This is Randy Orton's basically last chance to win this title off of Triple H. Basically the same way he won the title from Triple H back at No Mercy. We have last man standing match, Triple H and Randy Orton. And this was fine. This was a good match. It was a good match for what it was. It certainly wasn't as good as their one from No Mercy 07, but it definitely was a solid follow-up, but this time Triple H actually wins. He retains the WWE Championship. Like, Randy Orton, goes for this maneuver where he tries to go for an RKO, but Triple H reverses it, and he ends up tossing Orton out of the ring, and he lands roughly on his collarbone. Randy landed hard on his collarbone. And then Triple H finishes it off with his old reliable, his sledgehammer. He nails him with the sledgehammer. Randy Orton could not beat the 10 count. And Triple H retains the WWE Championship. Now we cut to it. This is it. For the World Heavyweight Championship, the vacant World Heavyweight Championship. It is tables, ladders, and chairs. Oh my. As it's Edge taking on The Undertaker. And if The Undertaker does not win the World Heavyweight Championship, then he will be banished from the WWE as a whole. He would be gone. Finito. Done. Done deal. This would be Undertaker's last chance to get the World Heavyweight Championship, as Taker was unceremoniously stripped of the title by Vicky Guerrero. And during their match at Judgment Day between Taker and Edge, Taker won the match via countout, but because Vicky Guerrero had to say, "Oh, you cannot win the title via countout," Vicky basically made Taker face Edge in a tables, ladders, and chairs match after Taker had delivered a tombstone piledriver on Edge back at Judgment Day. So here it is. Tables, ladders, and chairs. You have all the elements there. You have the chairs, you have the tables, you had the ladders. Everything was here. And this was not for the faint at heart. This was risk it all. This was a complete risk it all match, as everything was risked here. Taker's future within the WWE, and of course the World Heavyweight Championship. So the fate of the World Heavyweight Championship, Edge and Taker here, man, they beat the hell out of each other. Edge and Taker really take it to one another. This was Edge's match, okay? This was Edge's ball game, since Edge had nearly been in nearly every single TLC match since its inception, since the TLC match became a thing. And this was Edge's wheelhouse here. He was in his wheelhouse. Undertaker was the underdog in this match. Yes, Undertaker, despite never being in a TLC match, and has only been in one ladder match prior to this back in 2002, this was basically not in Taker's wheelhouse here. This was not a favorable matchup for the dead man. But never count out the Undertaker, as Undertaker, despite being getting his knee basically injured, he injures his knee in this match. Like, he also gets a wicked gash across his underneath his arm here. If you see it, if you see the end of One Night Stand, yeah, Taker has a wicked gash underneath his arm here from all the damage he suffered in this match. And both Edge and Taker do suffer a lot of damage in this match. You see La Familia come out, you see the Edgeheads, you see Hawkins get taken out first. He gets put through the table first, and then Ryder eats a table as well. Then Bam Neely comes out, and he gets hit with the steel chair. And Chavo, he gets a table for his troubles, or he gets hit with a chair. Taker tries to climb the ladder, make one last gasp up the ladder, but Edge, he makes a recovery and pushes the ladder over with Taker. And Taker went through 4 tables Edge had stacked 2 tables, and then Taker stacked 2 more tables behind the table, and then Taker would stack 2 more would put 2 more tables behind those tables that Edge had stacked. And you see Undertaker go through those tables, and you see Edge climb up the ladder, and he is once again the World Heavyweight Champion. I mean, despite the performance that Edge had given, yes, it had to be, he had help from La Familia. He had help from Chavo. He had help from Bam Neely. He had help from the Edgeheads, Ryder and Hawkins. And then out comes Vicky. Out comes his wife, Vicky. And they're making out at the end. Edge and Vicky and the rest of La Familia, they are walking out victorious. And then, of course, the crowd begins chanting, Undertaker, Undertaker. And Undertaker, he starts making his way back to his feet. He tries to find his way back to his feet to walk out. And he's walking out, tears in his eyes. And that's the way the show ends, on a really somber note, as the villain had just won. Of course, Taker's banishment did not last long, because we all know what would happen next. Because Taker would be reinstated by Vicky in the lead up to SummerSlam, as Vicky would want to get revenge on Edge. And yeah, I'll talk more about that when I talk about SummerSlam 2008 in August. And until then, I'm your Digital Super Saiyan 3, and I'll see you guys in July when I talk about The Bash from 2009. See ya!